Over the years, video games have evolved with new features, newer and better graphics and visuals, and new genres. And I'm here to tell you the first games that were in some of those genres. So here it is with 5 games that were the first of their genre. By the way, these are in no particular order. I'm not putting any game on top of another. This is not a top list. It's just a list that I put together. So it's in no order. Okay, so the first genre is FPS, and first FPS was a game called Maze War. It was a 1974 computer game which originated or disseminated a number of concepts used in thousands of games to follow. It's considered one of the earliest examples of, or a progenitor of, a first-person shooter. Uncertainty exists over the exact release date, with some accounts placing it before Spasm, the earliest first-person shooter with a known time of publication, although the first-person shooter genre did not crystallize for many years. Maze War influenced first-person games in other genres, particularly RPGs. The Maze War style view was first adopted by Mora in 1975. An early RPG on the Plateau network, and further popularized by Ultima and Wizardry, eventually appearing in a bitmap form in games like Dungeon Master, Phantasy Star, Eye of the Beholder, and countless others. Gameplay is simple by later standards. Players wander around a maze, being capable of moving backwards, forwards, turning right or left in 90-degree increments, and peeking around corners through doorways. The game also uses simple tile-based movement where the player moves from square to square. Other players are seen as their names, figures, or later eyeballs in the Erox version. When a player sees another player, they can shoot or otherwise negatively affect them. Players gain points for shooting other players and lose them for being shot. Some versions, like the X11 port, had a cheat mode where the player running the server could see the other player's positions on the map. The original MIT Imlac version had cheat keys to knock out a wall in the player's local Limlac maze copy, which made it possible to walk through walls as seen by other players. Occasionally, in later versions, a duck also appeared in the passage. Alright, so the next genre is RPG, and this one gets a little bit tricky because if we were talking about text RPGs, I could say like Petit 5 or Rogue. But if we were talking about a game with actual visuals and graphics, I would say it's Ultima. Ultima 1, later known as Ultima First Age of Darkness, or simply Ultima 1, is the first game in the Ultimate series of role-playing games created by Richard Garriott. The story of Ultima revolves around a quest to find and destroy the Gem of Immortality, which is being used by the evil wizard Mondion to enslave the lands of Zoserari. With this gem in his possession, he cannot be killed, and his minions roam and terrorize the countryside. The player takes on the role of the Stranger, an individually summoned from another world to end the rule of Mondion. The game follows the endeavors of the Stranger in this task, which involves progressing through many aspects of gameplay, including dungeon crawling and space travel. The game was one of the definite commercial computer RPGs. It is considered an important and influential turning point for the development of the genre throughout the years to come. In addition to its influence on the RPG genre, is also the first open-world computer game, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. So the next genre is the first third-person shooter, or third-person game. And the first third-person shooter was a game called Scantac. Scantac is a 1982 base combat shooter, which was originally released as an arcade game and later ported to the Atari 2600. It was also included as an unlockable game in the PlayStation 2 version of Sega Genesis Collection. It was developed by Sega Electronics and published by Sega of America. The game is notable for its 3D vector graphics that switched between an overhead and a third-person perspective, and for its tactical elements, putting the player in command of 7 units in squadron formation through waves of attacking enemies. The player can gain reserve units while being able to command the units to perform various attacks, including firing at the enemies, getting into formation, or attack maneuver. Now, while this game wasn't exactly a run and gun, a GTA style third-person shooter, it was one of the first games, or the first game, to have that camera angle included. Okay, so the next is the first open-world RPG, which, as we heard a few minutes ago, is Ultima. But if we were talking about a 3D open-world game, it's Mercenary, but Hunter enhanced it years later. And then, years later after that, the first open-world game, Open City, subgenre would be created with the release of Shenmue on the Dreamcast in December 1999. It is the first game in the Shenmue series which Suzuki plans to span at least 4 games. Shenmue consists of an open-world 3D environment interspersed with brawler battles and quick-time events. The game's detail was considered unprecedented at the time, including a day and night system, variable weather effects, non-player characters with daily schedules, numerous interactive objects, and various minigames. Shenmue received mostly positive reviews. Critics praised its graphics, soundtrack, realism, and ambition, but critics its slow pace and voice acting.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I might have heard something about it yesterday.
Who was talking about that car?
I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention.
Though its realism and focus on mundane detail divided players, it attracted a cult following, appearing in several greatest video games of all time lists, and is credited for pioneering game systems including quick-time events and open-world environments. Despite sales of 1.2 million, Shenmue did not recoup its development costs and is considered a commercial failure. After the release of Shenmue 2, further games in the series entered development hell. In July 2015, Suzuki and his development company, WiseNet, began developing Shenmue 3 for the PlayStation 4 and PC after a successful crowdfunding campaign, having licensed the rights to use from Sega to make Shenmue 3. The next genre on our list, and the last genre, is platformers. And the first platformer is a game called Panic Space. Panic Space is a 1980s arcade game designed by Universal Entertainment Corporation, which Chris Crawford called, quote, the granddaddy of all platform games, end quote, as it predates Nintendo's Donkey Kong from 1981, which is often cited as the original platform game. Space Panic lacks Donkey Kong's jump mechanic, and the main character instead digs holes in the platforms into which he must lure the aliens. He must then hit them to knock them out of the hole and off the screen. In later levels, 2 or more holes must be lined up vertically in order to dispose of the aliens. There is also a limited supply of oxygen. So those were all the genres for today's video. If I should make another one of these videos with more genres, because we still have multiplayer puzzle games, point and click games, and a lot of other genres. If there are other ones I should make, tell me in the comments. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe.